Welcome to a deep dive designed just for you, where we slice through a stack of sources to extract those, well, surprising nuggets of knowledge. Today, our mission is tackling a really fascinating collection of sources. They give us quite a unique lens into the current administration's actions, policy shifts, from massive architectural plans to global financial claims, even some administrative quirks. We're going to try and unpack what's truly important and why it matters.
Yeah, today's sources provide a pretty broad spectrum of perspectives. You've got official reports, critical analyses, insights into legal challenges. Our goal here is really to synthesize these, help you understand not just what's happening, but maybe why these details are significant for the bigger picture.
Okay, let's unpack this then. We'll explore the controversial White House ballroom expansion, claims about international relations, recent tariff policies, also some lingering questions surrounding past associations and even administrative oversight issues. So first up, let's talk about the sheer scale of this proposed White House ballroom. The plans we've reviewed detail a truly massive structure, 90,000 square feet.
Wow.
Yeah. To give you a sense of scale, that's actually bigger than the entire existing White House building itself, which is, what, about 55,000 square feet?
That's right, yeah. Significantly larger.
And it comes with a pretty hefty price tag, $200 million.
$200 million. And what's fascinating here, and what the sources really pick up on, is how this private funding model is, well, it's quite different. Different from typical major White House renovations, which, almost always require congressional approval.
Okay.
And this huge structure, it's slated to replace the historic East Wing. Yeah. The documents confirm that Trump and private donors are footing the bill, so not taxpayers directly.
Right. But even with private funding, the sources we looked at show critics are, well, they're quite vocal. Some are calling it a move to turn the People's House into, like, Trump's personal luxury venue, almost like Mar-a-Lago.
Exactly.
There's a clear sense conveyed in the critiques that it's seen as a sort of power move, an assertion of ownership over a public symbol.
Indeed. And what the sources really underscore here isn't just about adding space. It seems to be about a fundamental reshaping of presidential power itself.
Okay.
Or at least that's the concern being raised. Blurring the lines between private enterprise and public office right there in the symbolic heart of the U.S. government.
Blurring the lines. How so, specifically?
Well, critics point to this redefinition of ownership over a public symbol, and they emphasize its massive size. You mentioned 90,000 square feet. That's apparently enough for 10 basketball courts.
10 basketball courts?
Yeah, which they argue makes it kind of unsuitable for normal governmental events. The suggestion is it's designed more for luxury, for private use, maybe, rather than serving the country's needs.
So you might be thinking, okay, why should I care about a new ballroom? What does this all mean for, for me?
Right.
It seems to boil down to who gets to use that space, the transparency around the funding, and how private money in a public building like that raises concerns about potential influence, or, as some critics put it, even potential corruption down the line.
And that's the core anxiety reflected in the analysis we've reviewed, the transparency issue and its potential for undue influence when private capital reshapes public symbols on such a grand scale. It really challenges the idea of what the People's House stands for.
Okay. So, if the ballroom debate touches on domestic power and symbolism, our next set of sources shifts focus a bit. It gets into the veracity of power, specifically claims made on the international stage, and this next part, well, it really gets interesting. We're talking about some pretty significant claims Trump has made about international achievements, like stopping 6 wars and securing over $550 billion from allies.
Yeah, these are big numbers, big claims. And our deep dive into the factual basis based on the sources found some significant discrepancies. Regarding the 6 wars, the reports mentioned examples like India, Pakistan, Congo, Rwanda. But official reports we checked from those countries, well, they just don't verify these interventions happening in the way described.
So the claims aren't backed up by the countries involved?
Not according to the available official reports, no. And then there are the financial claims. We're talking $550 billion plus from allies, specifically citing $550 billion from Japan, $750 from Europe, plus other huge sums like $400 and $300 mentioned elsewhere.
Those are astronomical figures.
They really are. And both the EU and Japan have publicly stated these claims are unverified. They conflict with actual known agreements. And importantly, no such sums have actually been received by the U.S. government. The figures are so high, they seem almost impossible, or maybe they refer to like non-binding talks rather than actual money changing hands.
I see.
And what the analysis points out here is that this sheer scale of unsubstantiated claims, it presents a unique challenge to public discourse. It sort of redefines the threshold for verifiable facts in official statements.
So when claims of that magnitude are directly contradicted by official reports or the parties involved, what do our sources suggest are maybe the specific long-term implications? For public trust, for government credibility, how does that actually erode faith?
Well, the sources suggest that consistently repeating unverified claims, especially after they've been challenged, can make the entire government appear less credible, weak even. It can lead to a pretty significant erosion of public confidence in official statements generally. It creates a kind of vacuum where it's hard to know what's verifiable truth.
Right, a trust deficit. Okay, let's transition now from international claims to executive power closer to home. The sources we've compiled also highlight this ongoing controversy around tariffs. They detail that Trump has imposed, 10–15% tariffs on imports via executive order, specifically bypassing Congress?
That's right. And the core legal challenge here is quite significant. There's a federal court currently reviewing the constitutionality of this move. They're specifically questioning if the president can unilaterally impose tariffs like this without congressional approval. It really highlights a power struggle.
A classic checks and balances issue.
Exactly, between the executive and legislative branches. And the sources frame it very much as a potential issue of executive overreach.
And the impact on, you as a consumer and on businesses, it seems pretty direct. The reports we saw note these policies cause a lot of confusion for companies. They can make imported goods more expensive, obviously, and they tend to strain global trade relations, too. It creates this environment where businesses just struggle to plan ahead and other countries often react negatively, right?
Precisely. Uncertainty is a major factor there.
Okay, so beyond these bigger questions of public perception, foreign policy claims, and trade, our sources also bring up some very specific operational challenges, maybe even weaknesses within the administration. Let's pivot now to the resurfacing of connections to Jeffrey Epstein. The sources point specifically to a comment Trump made suggesting Epstein stole Virginia Giuffre from Mar-a-Lago, even though those same sources indicate Epstein was actually never at Mar-a-Lago.
Right, that's a key point raised.
And also mentioned is Trump's comment from way back in 2002 about liking women on the younger side and how that's resurfaced now in this whole context.
Yes, and the sources explain why these comments are seen as so controversial. Particularly given that Giuffre is recognized as a victim of Epstein's crimes, and her family has been calling for accountability. The analysis in the sources really highlights these statements as being, disrespectful and factually inaccurate. And that impacts perceptions of trust and judgment regarding official figures.
And then, on a completely different note, but still under that administrative umbrella, our sources reveal another instance of, let's call it, administrative dysfunction. The head of the Pandemic Preparedness Office resigned. After it came out, he was never actually formally appointed to the role.
That's correct.
Yeah.
A rather startling revelation. And it's significant because it exposed, administrative disarray, a real lack of proper leadership for what should be a crucial national health security office.
Seems pretty fundamental.
It does. And the sources suggest this might not be an isolated incident, that it could be part of a broader pattern of appointment issues, which naturally raises concerns about the White House's ability to handle critical government functions effectively, just managing basic government operations.
So quite a range of topics we've covered. When we bring all these different threads together, from the symbolism of a physical building like the Ballroom to the veracity of huge international claims, the intricacies of tariff policymaking, and even these foundational aspects of administrative appointments, what's the bigger picture here?
Well, what seems to emerge, according to the sources we've synthesized, is a picture of an administration that is consistently challenging established norms and procedures across various domains, whether it's the role of private funding in public spaces like the Ballroom, or the verification needed for official statements, or the checks and balances of governmental power seen in the tariff issue. These instances, taken together, they really underscore the evolving nature of the presidency itself, and maybe also the institutions designed to support it.
So as you reflect on this deep dive, maybe consider this. How do these kinds of shifts, these challenges to norms in presidential conduct and the use of government symbols, how do they ultimately shape the public's understanding of power, of accountability, and maybe even the very foundation of how our country is run?